Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Week 4 Menu and Facility Design. My name is Steve Hilborn. Week 4, at this point now where we are is that we should hopefully have completed 2 in-class assignments, both were 7.5%. And we will have had 3 meetings right now on either the Tuesday or the Wednesday for you to ask some questions. Also at this point, I hope you've been thinking about the major project, what kind of concept you think that you want to have, as well as looking at if you want to work with group members or if you would like to do it by yourself. As a piece of advice, when people do it by themselves, it seems to be about the same amount of work as they're not often waiting for other people to give their portions of it. So either way you want to do it is fine by me, just as long as you communicate to me using that Google Doc that's posted if you're working by yourself or in a group. And yes, you are allowed to work with people in different sections as long as you okay it with me first. Okay, so this week, which you will be locating under the Menu Facility Design 01 or 02, look for the PowerPoint and this video under Week 4. So this week, we will be actually talking about menu engineering and what does that mean. But before we do that, we want to take a look at a couple social and environmental factors that influence the menu. So first is social issues. So social issues are described as popular or unpopular trends, things that are happening in the public right now. So things that influence the menu might be banned or unethical ingredients. So if you were serving some sort of panda burger, or if you had some sort of camel fingers, this might be something that people feel like it's not right to have. Shark fin soup has been known as one of those. And if there's an inappropriate theme. So in America and Canada, there was a popular restaurant in the 80s and 90s, which still exists, and they were called Hooters. Now, obviously, this sexualized a lot of the servers. In today's place, it doesn't have really a strong position, and they've had to remove and change their outfits quite a bit because of that. Unfortunately, the food and beverage industry is also quite full of potential issues in the workplace. So with servers and staff, there can be a lot of discrimination, both sexual, racial, and cultural. So it's one of those things that we've made a lot of steps and we're getting a lot better. But these factors that can have some influence on the menu. And then, of course, last is health and nutritional concerns. So there was a new law that came out in 2018, I believe, Healthy Choices Act. And basically what that is saying is that we want to know how many kilograms or grams of fat, how many calories, and basically if menu options are healthy for us or not healthy. Another one is sustainability, and even now, more than ever, is something that we should really think about. How sustainable is a resource, and how sustainable is our business? So when you think about it like that, you can think about it in a couple different ways. First of all, resource conservation. So yes, our menus don't necessarily have a huge impact on how our lights turn on and off or what kind of water usage we have, but it does have some. So we are big producers of waste as a restaurant. We use large amounts of water and power and gas. And we usually have recycling programs that aren't always done as best as they could. So there's got to be ways that we can do things better, and has the added benefit of lowering the costs. And things like being a sustainable restaurant, you can actually use that to increase the popularity of the place. People like supporting places that are sustainable, that are good for the environment, that have an eco-conscious ability. So when you take a look at that, it's kind of twofold, where not only does it affect, yes, your actual costs, and they might lower it down a little bit, but it can actually affect your brand and the people's awareness of you. And the next one is sustainable food issues. So ensuring that we are using sustainable food. A lot of times people talk about like the 100-kilometer, the 200-kilometer diet, which is eating vegetables and meats when they're harvested and when they're fresh and as local as you can get. Feast On is one of those programs that kind of supports this whole sustainability, and it's a dedicated way for diners to experience local food. And if you have something like 60 or 70% of your food items on your menu that are representing Ontario, so that Feast On, O-N, it represents Ontario, then you can get this certification and it'll go on your menu, and people can go on this website and find out which restaurants are supporting the Feast On certificate. And then, of course, there's also more of a demographic data. So these are meal counts and sales data and guest expectations. So we are in Canada, and we are a very diverse area, and we are also very seasonal. So we have weather concerns. So what kind of food do you eat in the winter versus when you eat in the summer? And you'll notice heartier, fuller in body foods like soups and stews and large amounts of starches are eaten more often in the wintertime. And in the summer, you see a lot more lighter fares, salads, fish, and chicken dishes. Population count and ethnicities, we are the melting pot, as they call it. So we have many, many ethnicities present. So we got to make sure that we also have restaurants that are supporting and promoting some of these foods. And then also the social environment, which is the culture of the population. So what are currently people, what's trending? What do people like to eat? What do people want to see on menus? So as far as legality and legal concerns go, there's a few things that we need to know about. So truth in menu laws is one. So this requires that the menu actually describes the food that you are serving. So as an example, if you are serving an 8-ounce sirloin, AAA, so that's the grading of the meat. So if you are serving that and you run out, and then the chef goes, okay, well, let's give them the 10-ounce because we have them and we don't want to run out of one of our menu items. By law, you can't actually, even though it's a bigger piece of meat, give them that 10-ounce. Specifically, if it's like a different cut. The truth in advertising laws also requires that the pictures and the marketing of the concept in the food be a real representation. So sometimes you see this glorious picture, as you see in this little image on the screen, of what this burger looks like, and then the actual is usually somewhere not even close. So if you have menu pictures, that has to really represent the actual item. And there's also the alcohol limit and the legalization of service staff. You all have your SmartServe, so you have a really good understanding of the limits of serving drinks. So on your menu, you can't serve a bottle of wine to a single customer. You can't serve over 3 ounces in a particular drink. These are things that we need to know. And the last little bit I put about marijuana and food, there's going to be some edibles or something down the road available at restaurants. We haven't figured out the licensing and the legalization about it all yet, but that's going to be happening, and that's going to be a trending thing. Which brings us to menu engineering. So a funny thing about menu engineering is this is how I first started my consulting company, by doing menu engineering for smaller restaurants that maybe don't have the know-how, and I would charge $500 for it. And I would go in, and depending on how much work they had already done with their food costing or menu, it could take me, a couple days, or it could take me actually only a few hours. So the great thing about menu engineering, it's a technique for analyzing menu sales, and what it will actually do is help you evaluate all of your items based on two major concepts: popularity, so who orders the most of what item, and contribution to bottom line dollars, which means what item makes me the most money. Okay, so we take a look at those two things in this next 20 minutes or so of the video. So it's best explained by example and visuals. This is definitely one of those things that I would love to have you in class for, so we can do it a few times. I will provide in our week 4 folder a few practice menu engineering examples. So I will give you a sheet that looks like this, and automatically you're seeing this and it's kind of confusing. It has just a bunch of columns. What you would do is break down every single menu category. So by category, I mean entrees, appetizers, salads, desserts, draft beer or wine. It doesn't really matter what it is. And what you'll do is take a look at these kind of numbers. So you need 3 different sets of numbers to be able to complete this. The B column is actually the quantity sold, so the amount sold. This is also called the popularity of the item. So here we're looking at a very simple example of chicken, steak, seafood, tofu, and pork, and they have a bunch of different numbers associated with that. The next is the menu food cost. So this is how much it costs you to make this item. So again, you can see 5 different numbers for our 5 different items, and that is all the plate cost or the meal cost that we've been able to determine. The next item, is sales price. So sales price is what we're charging for it. So with these 3 items, we will be able to determine the rest of them. Now, before I go too far, menu mix or popularity, this is the percentage. So yes, we're looking at numbers here, but in the menu mix, we're going to be looking at, as a percentage, what is the most popular. And you'll see something like 22% for steak. So every time someone comes in the restaurant, 22% of them order the steak. And that's how we're going to be looking at these numbers. CM stands for contribution margin, which is basically profit. So how much money do we make after we charge them $14.45, we reduce or subtract the amount that we spent on the food cost, and what are we left with? These 3 columns here, G, H, and L, all stand for totals. So it's the total menu cost, the total menu revenue, and the total menu CM, contribution margin. And these will be the costs. As an example, menu cost will be the individual food cost multiplied by how many of that particular item that we have. And then same thing with menu revenue. It's the sales price multiplied by the 72 items. And the menu CM will be the item CM, which we haven't determined yet, times the 72 items. And basically they're just giving us the total. So if on this side here, this is the individual food cost and sales price, these 3, menu cost, menu revenue, menu CM, will be the total cost, revenue, and contribution margin. I hope that's not too quick, but that's okay because you can watch this a few times and we can go over it a little bit more. The next 2 they stand P and R columns, stand for contribution margin category and menu mix category. And what these are, we're basically saying, are they above average or below average? And I will show you on the next slide what that means. So, we are going to be classifying all of our meals into a category. And these are the 4 categories. Plow horses are items that are popular, but we don't make a lot of money. Low contribution margin. Stars are very popular and we make great amounts of money. So every item we want to be a star. They can't be, but stars are great. You keep them on your menu. You don't want to change them. You leave them as is. Puzzles are interesting because these are items that are not very popular, but we do want them to, but they do make us a lot of money. So when you see a puzzle, I guess the big idea is, how do I make this unpopular item more popular? And last week we talked about shading and pricing and descriptors and the power of print. And those are some ways that you can make that item more popular. And then there's a dog. So dogs are both unpopular and they have low contribution margin. They either have to go or they have to be fixed, or you have to have a really good reason to keep them on your menu. This is just a visual method to display the popularity and profitability. This is great for you when you're doing your assignment, just to kind of remember where they all belong. And when you actually do the assignment, we will be graphing these as well, and I will show you that. The next couple slides are all of the worksheet calculations. So I will be attaching the worksheet for you to go and do on your own as a practice before the assignment. These are all of the actual calculations in which to go through. I'm not going to read them for you because that's really going to be hard to understand, but go through and understand them, and there's about 3 pages of them. Now, I know it seems somewhat confusing, but it'll make sense as we go through. So again, these next slides go through each individual one. So if you were looking at column C, which is the menu mix percentage, what you are basically doing here is finding out what is the percentage of people that order the chicken dish. So in our example, we had 72 chickens. In all of the 5 different items with all of the amount ordered, it totaled 575. So what we do there is we say 72 divided by the 575 items gives us 12.52%. When customers come in, 12.52% of the time, they order the chicken dish. Next one is contribution margin. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. Basically what this is doing is determining the gross profit for the item. And it's quite simple. We are taking the sales price minus the variable cost per unit. So minus the cost of that actual dish. Like I was showing before, $14.45 was the sales price. Food cost was $4.65. Our contribution, $9.80. Every time someone comes in and orders that chicken dish, we make almost $10, and that goes to our bottom line. We get to keep it. The next columns, menu G and H, are the totals that I was talking about. So we're taking our 72 chickens and multiplying by the $4.65. So giving us this number, $334. That's basically saying we spent $334 worth for our chicken dishes in total. And from them, menu revenue, we were able to make $1,040.40. And then the menu CM will then dictate how much we get to keep. So in 2 slides previous, we're making $9.80 per chicken. So 72 chickens multiplied by $9.80, we keep $705.60. We could also find this number by saying the total menu revenue minus the total menu cost will also be $705.60. Either way, it's the same number. So whatever feels the most easy to you. So this is one of the ones that's a little bit, not difficult, but something that we really needed to take a look at. And this is what we're basing everything off. So when I say you have a high popularity or a low popularity, we need to know average popularity to know if it's higher or lower. Same thing when we talk about contribution margin. Do you make a lot of money or do you make less money? Well, we need to know that average amount as well. So what we're looking at here is the average contribution margin formula. And actually, I will just get out of this and go right back up to this sheet just to show you where this is going to go. So they're going to go down here. And I will label all of these sheets like this as well, so you know what they are. So basically what you're trying to determine is the average menu mix. So I will go back to that slide. It is box O. And what we are doing is that we are taking the total contribution margin, which is all of that whole column, all of the money that we made from all 5 of our dishes, selling them all, subtracting all our food costs, and finding how much is left over. And what we will divide it by is how many dishes were ordered in the first place, how many entrees were ordered. So we determined that was 575, and we just find that number by adding them all up. If we take the total contribution margin, which is $6,679.35, and divide it by 575, we come out with $11.62 per menu item. Meaning, if you make over that, you have a high popularity. If you make anything under $11.62, it's a low popularity. Next one is item percentage. So this one is actually quite easy. It's 1 divided by the number of different items on your menu. So we talked about there being 5 menu items. It was chicken, steak, seafood, tofu, and something else, I forget. Those are 5 items. So all we do is take 1 divided by 5, and therefore each item represents 20% of our menu. So if anything sells more than 20%, it's high popularity. Anything sells less than 20%, it's low popularity. And then this is where we start classifying them. Okay, so it's probably best that I show you in the actual Excel sheet. But here in the column P and column R, these are the contribution margin category. This is where we determine if it's high or low. And we're just going to put an L for low and an H for high. And column R, the menu mix, so it's popularity. And we're going to same classification, L for low or H for high. So this is the very first sheet that I showed you empty. This is it completed. Okay, so as we were looking here, we originally only had this B column right here, and we had D and E, food cost and sales price. So what they were able to do was go through and define all of, or complete all of the calculations. So not to go through it column by column, but I will just a little bit. Menu mix, they've broken it all down looking at this, and what they would have done is 72 divided by 575 equals 12.52. 130 divided by 575 equals 22.61, and so on and so on. These here, because we know that the menu mix popularity average is 20%, anything under to this 20% will be considered low, anything over will be considered high. So here, for the menu mix, we have low, H for high, over 20%, under 20%. Next one is item CM. So the item CM, like I showed you before, it was $14.45 minus $4.65 gives us $9.80. The menu items, menu column G, H, and L were all totals of these three numbers, just multiplied by 72. And then we had to classify them. So we already classified the menu mix, which is popularity. We sold 12.52%. The average is 20, so it's under 20 gets an L. And this one here, we determined the average is 1162. So anything under 1162. So CM category, we go over. Item CM is $9.80. Therefore, that is under 1162, and it is an L. Go to this next category. Item CM is $13.60. That's above $11.62. Great. And we go over. It's 22.61% of people order that. That's over 20%. They both get an H, which is a star. Okay. So when we looked at that one graph, low popularity, low menu mix, both of those mean it's a dog. High popularity, high menu mix, they're a star. We have no puzzles on this particular one, and we do have two plow horses. And plow horses are those that are very popular. H is here in the menu mix, but they don't make you a lot of money. L's here in the contribution margin category. So they're making $10, $25, and $9.55 each, which is both of those under 1162. So this is the worksheet that you're going to be doing. You're going to be doing it in Excel, so Excel is essentially a big calculator. I will provide the template for you. When you do the assignments and when you do something like this for the test, all the formulas will be provided. You have access to all of your material, so do not worry about that. But what you want to do is be able to break down this whole menu and give some recommendations. So when you know what each item is now classified as, you need to make some sort of recommendations. So as an example, they say you have a seafood platter on the menu that is not popular, nor is it a good contribution margin. No one's buying it, and when they do, you don't make any money. That's not a great menu item. So why wouldn't you remove or change this on your menu? So these are a couple of the solutions that you want to look at. First one being a star. So it's star. It's good with both of those categories. Popular and you make money. There's nothing to worry about here. I would direct your attention somewhere else. Plow horse is the next one. These are unprofitable but popular. So what you want to do here is you want to try to increase the price. Now, remember, if I increase the price of an item, what would probably happen? If you went for a pound of chicken wings and it was $10 one day, and then you went back the next day and it was $15, would you sell more or less? Now the answer is less. So when you increase the price, the amount that you sell will most likely go down. So what you have to keep in mind is that there is that magic number that you might be able to increase the price 50 cents, $1, $2 without really seeing the impact of the popularity. You could also decrease the portion size. So let's say that same pound of wings that you want to keep it at $10, but you're not making a lot. Well, when you sell a pound of wings, maybe you get 10 wings in it. Instead, maybe you're only going to sell 8 wings. And often people will say that seems like the right amount of wings per pound, so I'll take my 8 wings and be fine with it. And where's my mouse? And the last one, it means that popular means that the description and the placement on the menu is working. So if it's a popular dish and things are good, your description, your placement, your price point, those are all good. So how do I make more money? Next one is a puzzle. So these are profitable but unpopular, and this is where you need some work on increasing the popularity. So you can change the placement on the menu. Like I said in the last lecture, the first and second and the last one on a list of items is usually quite popular. You can emphasize the meal, boxing, shading, different colors, little icons, all those things to kind of attract the eye to the actual menu a little bit more. Or you can just change the price. So if you're already making great money on it, but it seems a little too expensive, maybe you can lower the price $1 or $2, and that'll increase the popularity, right? So you have to double check and see if your price works. And the last one is featuring. So let's say you don't want to change the price, you don't want to print new menus because that is very expensive, so you don't want to change anything on the menu. The easiest way is that you do a verbal feature, which is essentially telling your servers, I want you to sell this particular item. And people love to buy the features, and maybe you can put it on chalkboards or throughout the restaurant. Maybe you have a competition between your serving staff to see who sells the most, gets a free drink or a meal at the end of the shift. So there's other ways other than the menu itself and how to adapt or change that. And the last one is a dog. These are unprofitable, they're unpopular. You should remove it from the menu unless there's a reason to continue to sell it. So some of the reasons to continue to sell are right here. So because this is all based on averages as well, you have to remember if you remove the lowest performing item, the next lowest performing item will now be your dog, right? So it's all based on averages. There's always going to be the top performer. There's always going to be a bottom performer. You just want to make sure your bottom performer is as good as it can get. So a couple reasons why you don't want to remove something from like a dog on a menu could be it's a great talking point. So it's like a flaming cheese dish that the server brings out and they light it on fire, and you only ever sell 1 or 2 a week, but people talk about it and take pictures and post it to social media, and it's just a great, talking point for people, selling point. If it reinforces the concept, if you are Red Lobster and you take off one of your lobster dishes, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If it makes the other menu items look great. So this is an interesting one. So this is what they call a decoy design. So a decoy design aspect means I'm going to put a very high-priced, expensive menu item beside another menu item that generally is expensive as well, but not as expensive. So what they do is that they look at that really expensive one, they say, oh, that's too much money. But now, all of a sudden, the one that was pretty close in price looks a lot more attractive, right? So you're trying to trick them into saying, okay, I won't take the most expensive bottle of wine, but that second most expensive bottle of wine now seems a little bit more within reach, something more doable. So sometimes people have that great decoy design aspect where they have that bottle of champagne that costs $250, and you don't really sell that many, but that $80 bottle of champagne you sell a lot of. So that does actually work. It's a bit of a trick. If that dog is your signature item, you can't remove it. Or if there's some customers that really love it and they don't come in often, but they're regulars, maybe you keep it on there. Another one is that you actually have the ingredients. So if you have the ingredients, then it doesn't really cost you anything else to make it, right? You're not pulling in new ingredients. Nothing's going to waste. It's everything that you already have in your fridges and your freezers and your dry storage. So why not just keep it? And it kind of makes sense. So as you create your menu, you will not know what are going to be dogs and stars and plow horses and puzzles. We don't really know that. It's all based off the customers. You can hope that certain ones will be very popular, but once you know has some financial history, that's when you'll really be able to determine this. So breaking down the recipe and costing it out is one of the most important parts, and then comparing it with other similar restaurants. So you can determine industry averages for specific categories if you want. So how much do you typically pay for a bowl of soup? Is a $15 bowl of soup too much? Yeah, probably. Is a $22 salad too much? Probably, unless there's a big piece of steak on it. So even before you get into this, and that's the problem with starting a new restaurant, is it's hard to determine where your price point should be. It's one of those things that you can look at the industry and find some common numbers that you can base it off of. So the next few slides is about the major project, and it's really just the expectations of where I would like you to be after reading week. So you still have a few weeks to go, but really what I want you to do is these few things. So after reading week, you should have the concept. The assignment that you did last week should definitely help you guide you towards that concept and have those pictures and some of the background story. You should also have a market. So once you come up with your concept, then you can start looking at those prism segments that I gave you and come up with 3 target markets with descriptors. Now for the assignment, what I want you to do is expand on what you would have given me for the first assignment. You gave me probably a paragraph, most of you. So here I want you to probably go half a page. So your 3 target markets might bring up 2 full pages of material, but it's not newly created material. It's you pulling some of that information from that prism segment document and putting it in there and then relating it to your concept. Okay, just don't put the information and identify the market segment. Identify them and then tell me, why does this matter? Why would they come to my restaurant? Why did I pick this particular one? Advertising piece, a lot of you will choose social media, which I think is a great option, but you can do a flyer or you can do business cards or whatever you would like. There's a lot of really cool programs out there that'll do this all for you for free, so please check them out. And then I want you to start working on your actual menu. So again, even through a Word document, there are menu templates out there. You can Google menu templates and you'll find some. I want 4 items for each general category. So this includes appetizers, soup salads, mains, desserts, as many as you want. Some people kind of expand it more where they'll do sandwiches as one, steaks as another, pizzas or pastas as another. That's really up to you. And some people might have a bakery that they want to open up. So that bakery will be a little bit different with its own categories. At this point, if you have a different kind of concept than your standard sit-down restaurant, email me and I can give you some guidance. And then the menu rationale is that you have to price out 1 appetizer and 2 entrees and some of your beer and wine items. And that's really it. So basically what you're doing is you're finding online the cost of the ingredients of these individual menu dishes. And then what you are doing is saying, okay, how much in total is this going to be? And you'll follow the template that's provided in your major project assignment. Okay? So that's a really good place. If you're at the end of reading week, if you have completed all of those, you should feel pretty content on where you are, because then we will start our layout facility design portion of the course and go from there. So the final thing that I want to talk to you about, let's see if I can get my whole face on here. Hi. So the final thing that you need to worry about is going to be the next assignment. So the next assignment is going to be based on what we just talked about, menu engineering. honestly, guys, this is such a great tool, and you can make a lot of money if you ever go into consulting, or just really look good if you ever get hired by a restaurant chain. So this is a great tool. You put it in your back pocket and use it when it makes sense. I will walk you through in another video how I want you to complete the next assignment. It is exactly what you just saw here. It's using live current information from a keg restaurant in town. And what we'll be doing is breaking down all the appetizers, finding out which ones are great and which ones aren't. And then you will be making recommendations for 3 of them on what to do. Okay? So that's in the assignments tab under your Blackboard shell. This is a 34-minute lecture. If you are confused, the PowerPoint's attached as well as some the menu engineering worksheet. There'll be a blank one and a finished one. So please go through, try it on your own, then look at the finished one and see if you understand it. This will be a part of the test as well, and I'm always available for a little bit of help. So if you don't understand when you watch this video, drop in on your Tuesday, Wednesday drop-in meeting, and we'll chat about it then. Have a great week. See you in a few days.